Merry Meet. I'm Colleen Criswell from the Study Group for Spiritual Enlightenment. Currently, our group is learning about devotions, so today I will be discussing the basics of devotions and prayer as it applies to pagan and Wiccan practice. Many times you will find, when talking to people about daily devotions, it's seen as a solitary person who is reading verses from a Bible to find inspiration, motivation, validation, all out and out purpose for being. A devotional book is simply a small book that holds Bible verses or quotes or short poems that make us feel better about life in general. There are many different types of devotional books out there, though they are mainly Christian style. Because paganism and Wicca do not have a book like the Bible, we, in essence, have to make our own devotional studies books. Devotional booklets are not like regular books or notepads. They need to be small enough to simply slip into your pocket or purse. I would suggest the Moleskine brand of books. They have small notepads that are beautiful and come in a wide range of colors. As pagans, we don't have actual devotional books. We have to create our own. We choose our own items that we are going to be focusing on for specific types of situations in our lives. The term devotion means that we are showing the love and support and loyalty to a specific person, place, or idea. In this case, your spiritual path. The purpose of a devotion is simply supporting your spiritual belief system. As in the name of the term, daily devotionals, these can be done at least once a day or anytime you feel the need and desire to do them. They don't have to be done on daily, but they can be. It's simply stating that they can be done on any day rather than a specific time or purpose like an espit or a Sabbath. When many of us think of the term daily devotions, what comes to mind is the Christian practice of saying prayers for specific purposes. Even though it is common Christian practice, is no reason why we cannot use this practice and reclaim it for ourselves. The purpose of devotional time is not only one where we communicate with our deities, but it is also a time to recharge ourselves and let go of things we don't need to carry with us for the next portion of the day. We will be talking in future lectures about three main times we do our devotional periods, as well as other times when this sort of thing may be necessary. Through the lessons and activities given here, you're going to learn how to connect even more with your spiritual self and how to bring your magical self more places than just the ritual room. Before doing our devotions, we will need to decide where we will be doing them. Once we do so, we should prepare the space. Now, the place may be your couch, your car, your porch, your bedroom, places where people may be at any time. And that is fine. We are simply assigning the spot and cleansing the area and letting our spiritual self know that during the time you are in that spot, you are going to be awakening your spiritual self. I'm not asking you to turn into Sheldon from Big Bang Theory and freak out if someone sits in your special place. After your initial cleaning and declaration, there really is very little upkeep. This isn't like sacred space where we need to keep it up because we're practicing our magic there. This is simply a place where you can feel comfortable and, in a sense, recharge yourself or calm yourself depending on the circumstances. Does it have to be the same place every time? No, not at all. But it is important to make sure that you prepare the space before you begin. You can do this through burning a little incense or spraying a little sacred space spray. Ground and center yourself, and then you're ready to go. Here's a recipe I created for a quick cleansing of space. Colleen's Sacred Space Spray. This is the spray I use to cleanse an area that I need to do a ritual or spell in. This also works to help remove negative energy from an area. 2 ounces vodka or apple cider vinegar, 2 ounces spring water, 30 drops dragon's blood essential oil, 30 drops sandalwood, 30 drops frankincense, 30 drops sage, 30 drops myrrh, 30 drops lavender. Put it in a spray bottle and mist the area. I personally like to use the throat medicine spray bottles for this, as they're easy to find, easy to clean out, and give a nice soft mist spray when you use them. Of course, any spray bottle will work just as well. Though prayer comes from within, there are certain tools that will be of help to us as we work through our specific needs. I will list the items here for you to understand the purpose of why they are needed. There really aren't that many things that are absolutely needed for your devotions, mainly just yourself. Prayer book. As mentioned before, pagans don't have prayer books like other major religions do. Because we don't have a main source of spiritual enlightenment that all participants follow, such as the Bible or Torah, because the vast number of path possibilities and understanding of personal spirituality, we have to create our own. A prayer book is simply that, a book in which to record prayers that are reserved for specific purposes. Here we will be creating your own. Prayer books are used for many different purposes. They are not only a log of prayers that you have performed, very much like a book of shadows, but they are portable, so they should be small sized. Over the past few years, the Moleskine notebooks have become mainstream. They're small, pocket-sized notebooks that are usually leather-bound, so they're long-lasting and will hold up for years of use. They also come in a variety of different colors, and as you learned, color correspondences are very important to magical workings. So it is feasible to have different prayer books in different colors for different purposes. Prayer beads. Many different religions use prayer beads. The most common use is the rosary in Catholicism. The rosary is usually a string of beads that includes a medallion of a specific saint, as well as a religious symbol. Traditionally, most rosary beads include the image of Saint Mary or Saint Christopher. They also traditionally have the symbol of the cross. These beads are normally used when praying. The person touches each bead and says a prayer or Bible verse, something very simple. This is repeated on each bead on the rosary. This can be applied to pagan practice as well, when we understand not only our color correspondences, but also the properties of gemstones, different woods, and our understanding of symbols. We can create prayer beads that are specific to a certain type of energy. This is then used to help with the purpose of our prayer we are performing. Candles and incense. Just as with the prayer beads, we can include things such as candles in specific colors and incense in specific scents to help in adding layers to our magic. This is not always possible if on the move when doing devotionals, but they can be used in private devotional readings. Stones. Earth, as we understand through our knowledge of elemental workings, is a stabilizer. Most people, when they pray, are needing a form of stability. Stones, as we also know through our correspondences, have their own magical purposes. When we hold onto a specific stone when we pray, we can access the energy from that stone, or we can put energy into a stone that we need to have cleansed or altered in some way. Stones then can store that energy for us. They could easily be buried in the ground in order to have the earth absorb and renew that energy. Or, if we look at many cultures, when it comes to dealing with grief, a stone can be used to help take away some of that pain. Triple Goddess Prayer Beads. As you see, there are the colors of the Triple Goddess. There are 13 of each colored bead representing the 13 moons of a year. Between the individual beads are small silver spacer beads to represent moonlight. Between each grouping, there is a silver bead with a Celtic design to represent my Irish roots. Finally, there is one silver bead to represent the moon itself. Wiccan Rosary. In this one, you will see at the very bottom, I have a spiral goddess charm I found. Throughout the rosary, I have small gold and silver beads to represent the god and goddess. In the center, you see I have an iridescent bead that I use to represent the moon. Next, around the necklace, I have a bead to represent each of the elements. The final collection of 4 beads are to represent me by using my favorite color. I made this 7 or 8 years ago. This is closer to what a traditional Christian rosary looks like. Pagan prayer beads, which I will be explaining in more detail later on in this lecture, has white for positive energy, gold for the god, silver for the goddess, black for negative energy, purple for spirit, yellow for air, red for fire, blue for water, and green for earth. I can wear it on my wrist if I need an extra boost. Simply say a prayer on each bead as I touch them. Then we have a charm to represent balance. In this case, a yin-yang symbol was used. So let's backtrack a little and talk about prayer books again. If you're planning on following along with us at the study group for spiritual enlightenment, you should start your own prayer book for your own personal use. As stated before, pagans don't all follow the same path, so we have to create our own prayers that follow our own beliefs, our own deities, and our own special paths. Not all Wiccans or pagans have the same viewpoints when it comes to deities or correspondences, so it's important to create your own books that follow your needs. So, to create your own prayer book, you can choose the color of the book you want to use. It needs to be a small one, preferably Moleskine, 2.5 by 4 inches in size. These are found at most bookstores and office supply stores and are usually only a few dollars. Cheaper options are the paper notebooks that are handheld, usually with a spiral coil at the top, or you can always create your own. The first thing, just as with any magical tool, the book itself needs to be cleansed and consecrated. During the lectures and podcasts, we'll be discussing different types of prayer books and prayers, so you may find that you will want to have more than one prayer book, or take the time to categorize your prayer book before you actually put the entries into the book. It can be easier to have multiple books simply so you are not running out of space. However, this can be costly if you have a lot of books. I recommend having the following if possible: a book for prayers specifically dealing with beads, because if you end up working with prayer beads a lot, or have a lot of different prayer beads, it can be helpful to have them all in one book. A book for daily prayers that is sectioned off into morning devotions, afternoon devotions, evening devotions. During future lectures on devotions and prayer, I will be going into more detail on the different times of the day and types of prayer and devotional work that is appropriate. A book for on-the-go prayers that has been sectioned off into healing. Healing comes in all forms. It can be physical healing for yourself or others. It can be emotional or even spiritual. Many people have hurts that are not always visible. Stress and patience. This is similar to the idea of healing, however, it is more of helping others help each other. We all need to have emotional strength to deal with many different aspects in life. Difficult situations and stresses are always out there, and we all need that boost to help us get through. Work. In many cases, this form of work deals with self-esteem. This is something that most people deal with. Being criticized is no fun, and it can make us think poorly of ourselves. We also can see this in other people. that they need that little boost that says they are great people. We all have things we need to work on, and we need to learn to focus on those things, but also to remind ourselves we excel in other places in our lives as well. When we allow ourselves to see those positives, we're more apt to fix the negatives. But if we're only focusing on the negatives, they keep us from seeing those positives. Family. This also ties in with emotional strength and healing. The people we love that support us and surround us. And by family, we aren't always talking about blood relatives, but those who we love and support. We all need encouragement to get through different milestones in our lives. We need that pat on the back of the good things that we have done, and we need to give ourselves a pep talk now and then, just to help us get through those tough times as well. Travel, happiness, loss, or grief. Endings are a part of life, and the grieving process is an important one to help us with the healing process. Grief is more than being sad over a death. It is healing over the ending of any situation. A breakup, being fired from a job, someone moving away, even something as trivial as the cancellation of your favorite television show. We all need to learn to process and allow our minds to understand that the fact that all things end at some point. Reminding ourselves that the end is a new beginning can be very difficult at times. We need to learn to celebrate what has been rather than being sad at what will not be. And sickness. Then, of course, one for the Sabbats, Esbats, other moon phases, and other celebrations. For the sections, you can purchase little plastic file tabs that can be placed on the pages. This makes it easier to find the section you need. Two big aspects we always need to keep in mind are mindfulness. Many people hear this term but don't quite understand what it means. Mindfulness is when we understand where things come from, the source of things, the source of life and goodness and light, as well as the source of negativity and endings and death. By understanding where things come from, where the source is, then we can understand the situation better and deal with the situation appropriately. And connection. Many times we tend to focus on the differences rather than the similarities. This causes more problems than solutions. When we can focus on the connection things have with each other, with us, rather than those differences, we can gain common ground and understanding. Having a connection also includes connecting ourselves with the elements, the deities, and communicating with them. When we build on that connection with our guides and deities, then we have a better relationship with them. These are the basic themes that run throughout devotions. It is helping us help ourselves in a way by voicing what we need. This can be done in any way you choose, but when we are working with devotions, it helps us to write down our way of how we do it, and through that, we can have a way of comforting ourselves and focusing our energy easier. When we look at the themes, we are not only talking necessarily about ourselves, but sending out energy for others. There is a common misunderstanding that when we send out energy to others, we are pushing our will onto those people. This really is not true at all. When we send energy to others, we are simply showing our care and support. We are not forcing things to happen. We are simply putting that energy out there for the desired result. It is actually up to that person to decide what they want to have happen, and up to the fates, deities, and other powers that be. Simply putting that energy out there does not necessarily make it happen, but it also doesn't hurt anyone or anything either. Where a prayer is a type of spell, it is milder and than actual spell work in the magical sense. A prayer is like a band aid, a simple helper, where a spell is an antibiotic and attempt to cure. Okay, now we have a book and a good idea of the tools needed. So now what do? What is it we are supposed to put in our prayer books, and how do we get started? Next, we need to understand a few concepts: prayer, devotions, mantras, and affirmations. Let's start with prayer. This is a very simple understanding or idea. It is simply a basic communication with your deity or higher power, the creator or great spirit, the goddess or god that you need to talk to. It can be a request you're asking for, such as better health, or you could be asking for assistance or guidance, or simply relaying your day as you saw it. You may be making requests on the behalf of others. Simply, this is a little discussion you are having. Sometimes we use the same prayer for things, such as before meals, where you are simply showing gratitude for what it is you have been given. Prayer is something that many of us do without realizing it. It is sending out energy or a wish. For many of us, it is a knee-jerk reaction. We hear our friend's mother is suffering from cancer. We find out a coworker is having a baby. We get cut off in traffic. We have an immediate thought. That is a form of prayer. I always like to explain that a spell is simply a form of prayer with more bells and whistles. Formal prayer is when we are in desperate need, and usually the use of a focus object, such as prayer beads or a candle, is involved. This helps us focus our energy and is really used when it's an emergency or an extra bit of oomph is needed. Informal prayer is what we do in our daily lives when we just need that extra spark or help. It can be as simple as a sigh or a basic need. Most of us pray without even realizing it. Prayer itself is seen as a form of a spell. We cast spells all the time without realizing. It's simply putting that energy out of the wanted outcome. Most spell work is a form of formal prayer, but informal prayer is a form of spell work as well. A lot of people feel that casting a spell on someone who isn't of the same faith or doesn't know that we're casting a spell on them is crossing a line. In reality, it isn't. As you know, there's a lot of misinformation on what spell work and magic is. This is one of those areas. By now, you should realize that it isn't always up to us if a spell or ritual is going to actually work. It is all up to that higher power to decide if it is in our best interest or not. We can put the request in and we can actively work towards it. But if it's not in our best interest, then it isn't going to happen. And prayer is the same thing. We can send a prayer to that lady down the street who is suffering from cancer so she gets better, even if she isn't in the know of our religious practice. We can send that prayer out. She can be doing chemo and taking medication and doing everything else she's supposed to. But if she passes from cancer anyway, does that mean the prayer was wasted? No. You did something positive. You cared about someone else. You thought about someone else and prayed that they would get better. It just was not what her plan was about. So, what is the point of prayer if every prayer isn't going to be honored and taken care of? It's simply the understanding of the law of return. What you put out there comes back. So, the more positive energy you send out, the more prayers and hopes we put out there for more positive energy we will get back eventually. It can be difficult when we want something so bad, but it doesn't happen. But we have to look at it as we did what we could, and it was not in our hands to decide, but the fates or creator or whatever you choose to call it. Every little bit helps. You'll hear that a lot. And there's a truth to that, though sometimes it is little comfort. When a prayer is not answered, we have to accept that and move forward because there is a reason for that, even if we don't know or understand why. That is part of having faith, trusting in your deities to make the right decision in regards to answering prayers. Sometimes it does take blind faith to move forward. A prayer is simply a request. When creating a prayer, you need to have the following things: faith. This is the most difficult thing for many people, especially those who have been disappointed with things in the past. You either have it or you don't. To have faith, you must be able to trust. And for a lot of people, trust is something that is earned, not simply granted. So you need to choose if you can have faith in your deities, that they do love you and want what's best for you. Intent. You need to be able to vocalize what it is you are wanting clearly. If you don't know what it is that you are wanting, then it's not worth praying for. The best thing is to figure out what the big picture is, what the final outcome you want is, and that is your intent. Visualization. This is actually the key to the whole thing. Being able to visualize the desired outcome. If you can see it, then you can achieve it, usually. The idea that once you can see it in the mind's eye can give you the motivation to get to that point. As I have stated, when we pray, we are asking for the deity for energy for ourselves or others. Prayers can be for other people or ourselves or the situation or even the place. The types of prayers are petitions. This is when we ask for a specific outcome. This is the same idea as the physical petition that people ask you to sign when they want something changed. When we petition as a form of prayer, we're asking the deity to change something within us or someone else. In spell work, we can use petitions when we write down something specific and then burn it as an offering. We are making a statement of change. We want something brought into our lives or removed from our lives. Blessings. This is when we want the deity to simply grant positive energy to us, to help in a specific way. It is similar to a petition, but we're not always asking for change, simply a boost and support. Thanks. Giving thanks is simply us thanking the deities. A lot of people don't really think to do this one too much. They are always asking for energy and petitioning for change, but they tend to forget to say thank you when a prayer is answered. Most people give thanks before a meal or before bed, thanking the deities for providing us with the sustenance grown from Mother Earth and her many creatures that live here, and thanking them for the day that you've lived through. Now, an affirmation is a declaration of truth. You're putting into motion a personal truth for yourself. You're making it known, you are believing it. An affirmation always starts with the word I. You are making a positive statement about yourself that you either already know is true or you believe should be true. By making this statement, you are creating a truth about yourself, such as, I am worthy of my dreams. I have the strength to face the challenges before me. I embrace the memory of my past and now move into my future. I am a positive person. I am good enough, strong enough, and doggone it, people like me. When we choose to make an affirmative statement, we are reinforcing that we are making a statement that not only we believe and agree with, but that others should as well. When we believe something on the inside, it starts to reflect on our outside. So the more positive affirmations we state, the more we drive home our inner truths. An affirmation is simply stated one time, maybe once a day when you pass a mirror or so on. If it is repeated over and over in one sitting, it becomes a mantra. A lot of people confuse the mantra with an affirmation. Where an affirmation is a statement of personal truth, a mantra is what builds up to that. It is the repeated statement that we want to be a fact. It is a phrase that is repeated over and over until it becomes a truth. In other words, it isn't quite a truth yet, but it soon will be if you believe it will be. A mantra is a simple statement that is repeated over and over again in one sitting. Traditionally, it is a statement that is actually a request. We are giving a voice to the outcome desired. It is not a factual thing as of yet. It is a wish or desire, what we want to have happen. Most mantras start with "please grant me" or "I will be." We all know this little guy. His mantra was something we were all taught as children. We understood when things are tough, we have to encourage ourselves. That is what mantras are. They are words of encouragement to help us get to our affirmations. Sort of like a chant, when we are raising energy, a mantra raises a specific form of energy within us. We are giving ourselves words of encouragement, and through this comes an inner strength that will help us become better versions of ourselves. So, for instance, a very famous mantra which is used by many recovery groups is the Serenity Prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. This is something stated and repeated, asking for a desired outcome. When said simply alone, it is a prayer. However, many people use the beginning of the prayer and repeat it over and over, and this creates it into a mantra. There are other forms of mantras used in yoga. These are a different form of mantra. It is still very similar. You are repeating a tone that is used to get a desired outcome, such as opening a chakra. Again, it is a request to open your energy, and it is something repeated in order for it to happen. So, what exactly are devotionals then? A prayer is a conversation with our deity, an affirmation is a personal truth that we are reinforcing, a mantra is a spiritual pep talk. But what exactly is a devotional? In religions such as Catholicism and Christianity, the use of scripture in daily devotions is a norm. Since pagan practice and Wicca, there is no book of scripture like the Bible, we have to look to other sources for this idea. Mainly, a devotional is a paragraph or statement or poem or quote that connects to us in a spiritual way. Usually, a daily devotional book is like a calendar, and every day there is a different quote or verse or poem or paragraph that we can relate to. Usually, it is a small paragraph that someone has written and that is followed up by a short prayer or affirmation or mantra. We can reflect upon a specific energy for that day. Now, in paganism and Wiccan paths, we do not have a Bible or one ring to rule them all sort of situation, so where do our devotionals come from? Well, we have to create our own. We have to find our own or write it ourselves. There are thousands of books out there that have been written by amazing pagan and Wiccan authors. We can choose readings from books or plays or music that we connect to. We can use meditations and other wonderful things that we found inspirational, or we can write our own that inspire others. In many cultures, we hear the word scripture. What scripture is, simply, is a reading from a book that focuses on the spiritual practice of the religion. These readings are usually meant to help inspire the reader. They have a meaning and usually focus on the love of a deity or a way that one might strive to act like, sort of a form of read or ethic. These are words of wisdom, things that make us feel positive and has meaning in our spiritual path. Since we do not have one specific book that we use to govern our spiritual growth, this actually gives us more options in what we might want to choose. Books of poetry, books of mythology and folklore. Spells and rituals, famous quotes, all of these places may give us something that we can work with for our devotional reading. Instead of using the term scripture, you can use another term. A lot of people look at this term and think of it to be Christian church, and for some that may bring forward some negative emotions. Other terms that can be used are passages, readings, quotes, inspirationals. And when you add these to your books, always make sure that you're including things such as the author and book that it comes from, or if it's a quote, who said it. Scripture is simply a short reading. It can be a single line, it can be a simple paragraph, but it is short and has meaning. Sometimes it is hard to find a place to start, so I'm going to share with you a few books that I have found to be very helpful in setting up your own prayer books. The first book I recommend is Be Blessed, Daily Devotions for Busy Wiccans and Pagans by Denise Dumers. Unfortunately, this book is out of print, but if you can find a copy of it, it is really a lot of help and very handy. In it, Ms. Dumars has a lot of helpful information that can assist you in learning how to write your own devotions. She gives you a nice springboard to use when creating your own devotionals. Pagan Prayer Beads by John Michael Greer and Claire Vaughn has a number of different patterns of prayer beads and different prayers to use for your prayer beads that you can work with. It goes into beading techniques and helps you on how to choose your materials and so on. It is a great source of inspiration if you enjoy to craft. 365 Goddesses, A Daily Guide to the Magic and Inspiration of the Goddess by Patricia Telsko is one of the few daily devotional books that is easy to find. Each day you're given a different goddess. Some are familiar, some not so familiar. With each one, Ms. Telsko gives you some correspondences and a little bit about each deity and a little thing you can do that day to honor the deity. Wiccan Spell a Day by Serona Knight is another daily devotion book, as well as Wiccan Spell a Night. Each of these books has different spell, chant, recipe, and so on that can be done for that day. These really are helpful in giving you ideas on what you can do each day for your own daily devotions. Now that we have ideas, let's move on to another activity. Let's create our first prayer beads. We will be making the pagan prayer beads to help us remove negativity and find balance. When we start to write out our prayers and learn how to properly do things, it helps to have something that physically walks us through what we're doing. Like water wings to a new swimmer or training wheels on a bike, creating a prayer bead item will help us understand the purpose of repetition and simplicity when we are writing and working our devotional magic. The first thing we need to decide is what we're wanting to be the focus of the prayer. Next, we are going to choose the deity or deities most significant to the prayer. We are then going to decide the number of correspondence and the color correspondence and the symbol most appropriate. The first prayer beads we will be creating is going to be a basic piece that will focus on removing negative energy and finding balance. So we understand our purpose is to remove negative energy. Now we know from our understanding of correspondences, black will negate negativity, white attracts positivity. Now, since this rosary is going to be a general rosary, for the deities we will be looking at here is simply the Lord and Lady or the God and Goddess. Now, if you want to make one more specific and you have your own patron deities that you work with, you can choose whatever you want to do for this part. Traditionally, the colors for the God and Goddess are gold and silver, respectively. However, if you choose to do different deities and you know the color correspondences or even the gemstone correspondences, you could switch the stones out for those. Next, we have our spacer beads, which go in between the focus beads or purpose beads and our deity beads, which in this case are the black, white, silver, and gold beads we just discussed. These beads are usually a bit smaller than the main beads. Traditionally, They are what are known as seed beads. They also have a purpose other than simply just to provide space between the main focus. For our spacers, we will be using the colors for the elements of air, fire, water, earth, and spirit. So, yellow, red, blue, green, and purple. Now the focal point is our amulet. These are always fun to choose and find. I tend to spend more time looking at all the different charms that are available to find the one that is perfect for my purpose. For this one, the shape of the amulet should represent balance. So this could be anything you want, or you can make something of your own. For example, if we look back at the one I have a photo of, this one was created by Minnie Aaron, and she used the yin-yang symbol for balance. Here is one I made a long time ago where I used 2 feathers to represent balance. The next thing is thread. It is something you will need, and there are a lot of things to consider when you're choosing thread for these. Not only color, but strength and width. You don't want it to be too thick so you can't thread the beads, but you don't want it to be so thin that it'll break as soon as you use it. Also, there are different materials from cotton to synthetic to hemp. Then on top of that, there are different color options. So keep that in mind when you're choosing. Every little thing is important. The next part is where our numerology understanding comes in, and that is the segment pattern. This is important because it'll tell us how we are going to string the beads. We do these in segments, and that is what creates the pattern. In this, we are using 9 different colors of beads. The spacer beads are 5 different colors to represent the elements. The purpose beads are black and white, so those need to be the same size beads as each other. The deity beads are important as they are blessing beads. These should be the same size as each other, however, should be bigger or a different shape than the purpose beads. Trust me, there is a reason for this, which I will discuss in a moment. As we know, the number 3 is very significant when working magic. When we cast a circle, we do this 3 times around. That is because 3 is a cleansing and clearing number, as well as its association with the idea of the Trinity or triple goddess. So for this, we will use in each section 3 white beads, 3 black beads, 3 gold beads, and 3 silver beads. Between each bead, we will have 5 spacer beads. So that makes 60 spacer beads, 12 of each color. So our pattern is shown here. The dots represent the seed or spacer beads. These would be done in the order of air, fire, water, earth, and spirit. So each section will have 3 groupings. This is important because it will tell us how many beads we're going to end up needing by the end. In this case, we will be doing 3 segments. So if you've been paying attention and keeping count, what you need for this are 9 white beads, 9 black beads, 9 silver beads, 9 gold beads, 36 yellow beads, 36 red beads, 36 blue beads, 36 green beads, and 36 purple beads. Now, if we were simply going to leave it as is, the final spacer beads would line up with the white bead and it would be done. But since we're adding a charm, we need to even it up. So what we need to do is to make it look a bit more even. To do this, and to make sure that the tie is invisible, is to add 1 more section of spacer beads and add 2 more beads to either side of the charm. These 2 beads are to be clear and should be about the same size as your purpose beads. Then last on your shopping list, you need the white beading thread. Embroidery floss works well, but the elastic spools of jewelry making thread is the best. And a beading needle. A regular needle will not work. Beading needles are longer and thinner. If you like, you can choose not to use one. And a needle threader is optional but helpful. Finally, you will need a pencil or item to tie off the thread for when you are working on an item. This is something a lot of people forget to do, and there's nothing worse that when you are working on a project like this and you're almost done and then all the beads slip off in the bottom because you forgot to tie it off. Things I've used in the past are a ring or a twist tie or another bead. However, if you're using a spool of elastic thread, you don't even have to remove the thread from the spool. Just bead it on and scoot the beads down the spool as needed. It saves a lot of hassle and trying to guess how long a piece of thread you're going to need for a project. Other optional things that can be helpful: a needle nose pliers, tweezers, a magnifying glass, a bead board to help lay out your items, a box to store and separate beads, a necklace form to help show you how a project will lay, and a needle to help open beads. So our pattern would look like this. The dots represent the spacer beads, which should be in the order of air, fire, water, earth, akasha. The letters represent the color of bead. The C represents clear, the CH represents the charm, the X represents where the tie will be. We want to put this between the last clear bead and the charm so that we can tuck the remaining thread through. Of course, once you have all the items needed, you need to cleanse and consecrate and give purpose to the items and tools. My first tip for you is make sure you have all your items together before you start. It makes things a lot easier. You can buy boxes with compartments anywhere that sells jewelry supplies. The box I used was only $2.50. My next tip is that sometimes it is best to buy beads that have a lot of colors in one container, but they can be a pain in the butt to sort through, and sometimes you may wind up short on a color. E-beads come in every color of the rainbow and then some, and they're pretty inexpensive. I bought a tube of multicolored for $1.50, and there are roughly about 500 beads in a tube. I chose the 6/0 size. They're a little bigger, but you can get the really tiny ones, which are the 11/0 size. They're super small and can be hard to work with. For my black and white beads, I found 4-inch pearl beads in white and black. For my gold and silver beads, I found 4-inch diamond-shaped beads in gold transparent and silver transparent plastic. For my charm, I have 2 silver feathers for the angel wings, and I have clear beads that are 2 inches in a small, similar shape to the gold and silver beads. It's helpful to sort out your beads so that they are in the order that makes sense to you and that they are easily accessible. So again, here's the pattern. We're going to start the pattern where the X is. I first thread on the charm and then the first clear bead, and then I put on the 5 spacer beads working yellow, red, blue, green, purple. Then I put on the white bead, 5 spacer beads, yellow, red, blue, green, purple. Then the black bead, 5 spacer beads. Then the silver bead, 5 spacer beads. Then the gold bead and the 5 spacer beads. And then I repeat 3 times. I then continue this pattern of 3 more times. Continue to the last gold bead and then add 5 spacer beads, yellow, red, blue, green, purple, and then the final clear bead. Tie the end next to the charm as tight as you can and double knot it. Move the beads around to cover the knot as best as you can. Trim the ends, and you're all done. All in all, the cost of my materials was $20. However, I have tons of seed beads and the strands of the other beads that I bought. I have actually enough beads left over to make 2 more of these necklaces. I would need to buy an additional charm, which were $3 each, so I have enough for more projects later on. Okay, now you have created and given purpose to your beads. So now what do we do with them? Well, next we write out a prayer for the beads themselves. With our beads we just created, we know that the charm is the start and the end of the prayer. So that is where we start. Our start of the prayer should always be the purpose of the prayer. So this should fit in with the purpose we gave these specific prayer beads. Next, we have 4 specific bead types. So on each of these bead types, you need to have your own mantra, and that has to be connected to that bead. We then also have our spacer beads. Now, these we don't need to do anything more than say, blessed be or so mote it be when we move over these spaces. The spacer beads can count as one bead. Finally, we end at the charm again, and we would say our closing prayer. So with the beads we just made, if you follow the pattern of the beads, we have the charm, space, positive energy calling, bead, space, negative energy banishing bead, space, goddess bead, space, God bead, space, positive energy calling bead, space, negative energy banishing bead, space, goddess bead, space, God bead, space, positive energy calling bead, space, negative energy banishing bead, space, goddess bead, space, God bead, space, charm. So we would need to come up with the following: statement of intent, starting and closing prayer, blessed be. Positive energy mantra, blessed be. Negative energy mantra, blessed be. Goddess mantra, blessed be. God mantra, blessed be. Repeat. Opening and closing prayers are similar to when we are opening and closing a circle in a sense. You want to use wording that explains what it is we are doing. It's usually short and to the point. It helps if it rhymes, but that's totally up to you. The opening and closing prayer is simply a chant that is repeated when you start the prayer chain and when you end the prayer chain. So, since the beads we have created are made for cleansing energy, the opening prayer could be energy around, energy abound, cleanse and release, bring me peace. A mantra is simply a single statement that enforces intent. It usually one line and simply straight and to the point is all you need. So positive energy mantra could be positive energy inflate. The negative energy mantra, negative energy diminish. Goddess mantra, the lady create. God mantra, the Lord finish. So altogether, the prayer beads prayer would be energy around, energy abound, cleanse and release, bring me peace, blessed be. Positivity energy inflate, blessed be. Negative energy diminish, blessed be. Lady create, blessed be. The Lord finish, blessed be. Positive energy inflate, blessed be. Negative energy diminish, blessed be. The Lady create, blessed be. The Lord finish, blessed be. Positive energy inflate, blessed be. Negative energy diminish, blessed be. The Lady create, blessed be. The Lord finish, blessed be. Energy around, energy abound, cleanse and release, bring me peace. To use the beads, you simply hold them with your thumb and forefingers, and when you get to the bead, you say the part, and then you sort of shuffle them through your fingers when you say blessed be on your way to the next purpose bead. So, now you have your first prayer beads and a prayer to use with them. These beads are great to keep in your bag or near you to use when you're going to be dealing with stress or negativity that you need to get rid of. Now that you've learned a bit on this yourself, you have a few tasks that you can do. Yep, that's right, homework. First is to start your own prayer book and create the negative release pagan prayer beads. Write some mantras that focus on health, emotional strength, family support, encouragement, self-esteem, mindfulness, connection, and grief. Next, write some affirmations that focus on health, emotional strength, family support, encouragement, self-esteem, mindfulness, connection, and grief. You are to find in different books and sources scriptures and passages that are appropriate for the following purposes: health, emotional strength, family support, encouragement, self esteem, mindfulness, connection, and grief. Don't forget to put reasons why you feel that it is appropriate and include where you found it and the author or speaker. Create your own prayer beads and create your own prayer to use with them. Make sure that if you are sharing this information with us, you include the pattern you used and the prayer information. Speaking of sharing, first make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking the little subscribe button on the screen. You can also follow us on Twitter at StudyGroup4SE. And you can join our Facebook group if you search the Facebook for the Study Group for Spiritual Enlightenment. There you can follow along with us and share what it is you have done and see what other people have done. You can also contact us at studygroup4spiritlight@gmail.com. If you have any questions or would like to make suggestions of lectures and classes you would like to see happen. Thanks for joining me today. Mary Part.